it's better for you to score 20 and lose than score 10 and win. And I'm like, that is not me. That kind of message needs to stop because that's not true. Coaches from high-level teams, they want guys who win. And if you're on a winning team, even if you don't average as much as you would if you were on a worse team, a rising tide raises all ships. Coaches want winners. Coaches who want guys who are willing to do what it takes to win first. And if you do that, if you prioritize unselfish desires first, it always comes back to benefit you.
All right, we're here with Parker Van Dyke. This is awesome. Thanks for doing this. And we were just talking here. This is the first time we've officially met. Mm-hmm. We've been in the same circles, whether that's basketball leagues or SUU. I've seen you at the summer games. Like, we've been in the same place but never spoken to each other. So I'm pretty pumped for this because I think you have a really cool experience. And I wanted to start it with the first time I saw you in person.
Yeah,
please do. This is news for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know when this would have been. You're at the University of Utah. You're playing. And we had a little pickup game going. So Bo Rideout, she is somehow related as a friend of mine with J.D. Lewis. Mm-hmm. So we went up to the U. We were going to just play some pickup. And we're going through a couple of gyms. And in one of those gyms, you were shooting on a gun. And this is the first time I'd seen a gun because they didn't have, that's how old I am. They didn't have those.
Yeah.
So like, what is that contraption? And then I saw it kicking it out to you. And I had never seen somebody going through shooting drills like that in as close to simulating real game situations as you were. So your intensity on that gun it stood out to me. And I remember asking, like, who is that guy? Mm-hmm. And because most of these guys, especially in high school, you see these kids and they're just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah.
So take me through your work ethic and how did you get to that point where you were able to take just drills by yourself alone in a gym so seriously?
Well, that's a great question. And that's a great story. And yeah, great to be on here. Great to meet you in person. Thanks for having me on. You know, I think I had some great coaches. And so staying with the U, Coach Tommy Connor, who was the head assistant when I was at Utah, and I actually grew up going to his camps at Westminster when he was the coach at Westminster. And he was big on trying to simulate practice situations as a game as much as possible. And so anything you did was game speed, game pace, and that's how you elevated your game. Anybody can go into a gym and just shoot casually 200, 300 shots. But if you're not doing it as game simulated as possible, then there's not much growth there. And so that was just something that I just really bought into from a very young age is like, hey, if I'm going to be in the gym, I'm going to try to simulate it like a game so I can improve. And so when those game shots come, you've already shot that kind of shot. You've shot it with that same level of intensity and that same pace. So I'm a big believer in like quality over quantity. So a question a lot of kids will ask me is like, how many shots do you shoot a day? I'm like, I never count. I think it's counterproductive to go in and just shoot 200 shots. I'd rather you shoot 50 game-like shots. And to me, that's more important. So that's something I just bought in from a young age and had some great coaches who taught that. And I really think that's where you can see some improvement is simulating game situations in practice settings.
No, I love it. Again, I'm an assistant coach at a high school, and so we have the kids the same thing. We have a gun now, and they'll go through those motions, and they'll shoot 90% from three when you're sitting there standing there, no one's guarding you, you take all the time in the world. Mm-hmm. And then in games, they're shooting 30%, and they can't understand what's changing. How come I shoot so well by myself versus in games? So I just love that. When did that really start to click for you? When did you start taking basketball seriously to the point where you're practicing outside of just formal practices of your team?
Mm-hmm. I came from a big sports family, and I was a multi-sport athlete all growing up. So as a kid, it was baseball, basketball, football. And from a young age, from second grade to about fifth or sixth grade, I just played whatever the season was. Mm-hmm. So if it was football season, I was playing football. If it was basketball season, I was playing basketball. Baseball season, I was playing baseball. And then around sixth, seventh, eighth grade, basketball really started to take over. I started playing it. I started kind of playing it all year round. I was on a very good team, and it was starting to become my favorite. It was also starting to become my best sport out of the three. And so then around that time, 7th, 8th grade, it became, okay, I still play baseball and football, but basketball is always. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there was times when I'd go to football practice in the afternoon, I'd come home, and then me and my brothers and my dad, we'd go to a church and we'd go shoot. Mm-hmm. And then same thing with baseball. I'd play 2 baseball games on a Saturday, and then that night we'd go shoot in the gym. And so basketball just became this constant thing where I was playing other sports, but basketball was kind of my number one. And It was just because I enjoyed it. I liked it. I wanted to do it. No one forced me to do it. I had an older brother who was also that way, so that helped. But it's not like my parents ever had to get me into the gym. It was just something I wanted to do, and I enjoyed working at it.
How long did you keep playing baseball and football? When did those go away?
I played baseball all the way up through my senior year of high school. Nice. Baseball was my first love for sure. And so like in another life, I would have gone the baseball route. I still play slow pitch softball and like love it. And I'm a huge Atlanta Braves fan, so I'm big into that. And then football, I played all the way up until I was going to be a junior here at East High School. And I was kind of in line to be the starting quarterback that year. And I was getting heavily recruited in basketball at the time. And it was a tough decision, but I made the decision to stop playing football at that point. So I played up until my sophomore year. But I still look back too, and I think, man, East was a really good football school. And so I was thinking, man, could have been like a state champion if we would have kept playing. But I think for my basketball career and my basketball recruiting, it ended up being the right decision. Mm-hmm. But it was tough to leave football behind.
What do you think you learned, or what do you think playing other sports helped you to accomplish more in basketball? How did they help you with basketball?
Well, I like to talk about three things when I talk about kids playing multiple sports. The first thing I say, it's fun. It's fun to play multiple sports. And as a kid, it's your only chance in life, really, to play other sports, try other things, and just enjoy kind of that childhood aspect of being able to play multiple sports. Two, you really do learn a lot from each other's sports. So like baseball is a game of failure, mm-hmm. and you learn to deal with defeat and still being able to compete. Even if you're not hitting well, you got to defend well. Mm-hmm. So you can't let a strikeout affect you in the field. And that correlates with basketball so well. And football is all about toughness and discipline and doing things you don't necessarily want to do. Because football practice I never enjoyed football practice, but you had to put in the practice to then have success in the games. And so those things definitely correlated to basketball. So I, enjoy it as a kid. They help you in your main sport. All sports, I think, kind of correlate to one another, and you can utilize what you learn in one to another. And then I think burnout is a real thing. And so for me, since I took time away from basketball to play other sports, I kind of took a break from the game. And I was still staying in shape, and I was still, staying active. But by the time I got to high school, I wasn't burnt out. I still had the hunger for basketball. And then when you get to college, it becomes a job. And I still had passion for it, where I know a lot of kids who by the time they specialize very young, and then by the time they're junior, senior year, where you really need to be on it, they're burnt out. So I think that's a big thing about playing multiple sports is you kind of avoid that burnout that can come to some kids.
Yeah, and I think it's sad that it seems like that happens less nowadays of just this multi-sport things. It's just starting so early. They want them to be mm-hmm. all in all year round in a lot of things. I want to circle back to your baseball and that getting over failure, because especially with you as a high-volume scorer on not necessarily high-volume shots, but you've been known as a good shooter. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I've asked a lot of people here is my son really struggles with perfectionism. I've missed a shot. It's over. I'm not shooting well. It's a bad game. Did you ever interact or have that same mentality? Or how would you get over, okay, I've missed one shot, two shot, three shots. Mm-hmm. How did that look like for you when you're growing up?
Oh, man. I mean, I think that's a lifetime battle right there for an athlete. And it's still something I struggle with, right? It's because you have such high expectations and standards for yourself, but you also have to have grace for yourself and realize like, hey, you can't make every single shot. Mm-hmm. Even though I expect to make every single shot, you can't do that. And so constantly remind yourself it's this next shot, next play mentality, and not letting one mistake turn into multiple, or not letting a missed shot isn't a mistake. Mm-hmm. And so not letting that turn into like multiple missed shots, or the mistake is letting it turn into multiple missed shots, or like, lose your focus on defense or lose your focus in other aspects of the game. And so one thing I've recently started to think about, and I've been telling this to some young players, is judging your offense, not just off makes and misses, because there's going to be games where you're hot and you're going to shoot 8 for 10. And there's going to be games where you're going to shoot 2 for 10. But judging your success off your decision making. So you watch yourself and you shoot a shot and you ask yourself, was that the right decision to shoot that shot? If the answer is yes, then that's a success. That's a positive. Okay, you missed it, but that was the right shot to take. And so now when you're running back on defense, you can say to yourself, that was the right decision. I made that decision. I didn't make it, but I'm going to make the next one, and I'm glad I made the right decision. And so I look at shooting now now that I'm older and I'm in my professional career, is my decision making on those shots. Not necessarily makes and misses, but first the decision making. And then if I'm missing more than I should, then we'll talk about why I'm missing. But decision making when you're shooting, I think really helps kind of overcome this, like, and then being realistic. Like you're not going to make every shot, and having some grace for yourself. And then realizing if you go 4 for 10, that's 40% from 3. That's a pretty good game too.
No, my dad was my coach growing up for a long time, and he would always say, I'd rather have you take a good shot and miss than a bad shot and make it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I'm sure you've interacted with players too, where they'll throw up a crappy shot, it goes in, and then they're like, great, green light, I'm going to shoot everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no.
Those bad shots don't beat teams though.
Yeah.
When the defense is happy with that shot, because you're not going to make that, you're not going to make that a high percentage. You're not going to make that to beat us. But if we keep giving up good shots on defense, that'll eventually beat us.
Yeah.
So that's, taking good shots is how you kind of can judge your success.
No, I love that. So take me through, because you played on a pretty high profile kind of comp team or AAU team back when you were growing up. So take me through kind of those players. What was that experience like going through the successes that you had with them? And then I have some other questions on that too.
Yeah, I had a dream. I look back and it was a dream AAU situation, like growing up playing basketball situation. I think any kid would love to have the opportunities that I was fortunate and blessed with to have. Is just played on a very, very good AAU team in Utah, where I was put on this team with some of the best players in the state at the time. And so we were called Salt Lake Metro, and it had guys like TJ Haas and Nick Emery and Eric Mika and Brandon Miller and a handful of other guys that all went on to eventually play Division I basketball. And man, we had some great coaches and people that were very generous, and they traveled us all around the country, and we played against the best competition and won some national tournaments. We ended up going, one year we went to Florida, played against Jabari Parker and beat his team, and we actually we placed 10th in the nation that year. Wow. So for a whole year, we were the 10th place team in the nation, or the 10th highest ranked team in the country. Ended up going to like the Western Nationals in Reno and won that tournament, and won multiple in Vegas and things like that. And man, it was the time as a kid, I just thought, this is what you do. You just get on a great team with great players and great coaches, and you travel the country. And now as I look back, I'm like, that was an amazing experience that not everyone gets to have. That taught me so much. That I think that paved a way, one, that for my desire and passion for the game, and playing with the best players and playing against the best players. It gave me a good framework. Okay, this is where I need to be good. If I want to be great, I got to do what this guy's doing, or I got to be like this guy. But it also taught me I could have success in multiple roles on this team. We were so stacked. We had, 5 or 6 future D1 guys. We had to play together. Not everyone could take 20 shots a game, so you had to kind of find your ways. How can I impact the game in my role other than just scoring? Okay, getting guys open, rebounding, defense, energy, attitude, things like that. And so I kind of was taught how to, and it's helped me in my whole career, again, how to impact winning without having to be the guy every game. And that is a lesson that I look back on, and I'm grateful for that I had that in that situation.
Did you have formal conversations on that team about that, or was that just something that everybody kind of just realized, okay, Nick's hot, let's get him the ball, TJ's hot, or how did that play out in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were ahead of our years. I think we all had pretty high IQs at a young age, and we're all pretty skilled. And then we just had great coaches that understood that. I think also everyone had the priority. Winning was the top priority. We wanted to win. When we went to these tournaments, we wanted to win the tournament. And I think we were all happy and satisfied with okay, so-and-so is going to get 20 points tonight, and I'm going to set screens for him, or I'm going to play off the ball, or I'm going to help get him open. It was as pure as basketball could be. No egos, just kids who enjoyed playing with each other with good coaches, just trying to win. And it just happened naturally. Again, I look back and I realize, okay, I'm so grateful for those things. But in the moment, I was just playing.
Yeah.
I was just playing and just trying to win and competing.
Were you all not living near each other? Because you come to East and Lone Peak is quite a ways away from here. So was that something where you're all just meeting up, or did somebody move? How did that team, I guess, get broken up when it comes to high school basketball now?
Yeah, so how it all came together is, if I'm not mistaken, so Golden Holt was our head coach, who ended up being the coach at Orem High for a few years, won a state championship. And he kind of had a group of guys. So he had like Nick Emery and TJ Hawes and those guys down there in Utah County. And then there was a guys named Brett Miller and Dirk Pardo, Brandon Miller's dad, Brett, who had coached some other Salt Lake Metro teams. And they kind of had their group in like the Sandy, Cottonwood Heights area. And then I was on a neighborhood team with Easton Highland kids here. So there was almost like these 3 separate teams. And I remember I played against both of those teams in like a 3rd grade tournament out in like West Jordan High School. And my team just got destroyed. And it made me think I was the best in my neighborhood. And I played against those guys. And I was like, man, I'm not as good as I thought I was. But then those 2 teams kind of came together and they decided like, hey, we want to form like a Utah kind of all-star team and travel to tournaments. And they needed one more guy. And so they picked me up. So I was the only one from like Salt Lake proper. So I ended up going to one tournament with them. And then that just kind of became our team. And so we would kind of play with our neighborhood teams throughout the week. And then Saturdays we'd meet up and we'd meet up in like Utah County or we meet up at like West Jordan or Bingham High and we'd play our Saturdays together and then we'd travel. And so that's kind of how that team was formed. And so we were kind of in like 3 different areas, but then would form like an all-star team.
This might be a little bit of a tough question here, but what was it like seeing now those teammates go on and have that success at Lone Peak, and then they go to BYU, you end up at Utah?
Yeah.
That's as big a rivalry as there is.
I mean, when it was going on, I was excited and happy for those guys. They deserved the success that they had at Lone Peak, and they were so fun to watch. Talon Shumway, who was also on that team, he ended up joining us later on. I played with him a little bit later, like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Connor Toulson as well. And so it was fun to see their success, how good they were, and they represented Utah so well nationally, obviously like winning the national championship and winning national tournaments. And yeah, I was excited to kind of continue and be able to play against them, Utah and BYU, but we didn't really get that. I played against TJ a couple times. I played against Erik once, I think Nick once, but we didn't, because the age of the rivalry was different. They were in the West Coast, we were in the Pac-12, so we didn't play as often, but it was just exciting. It was exciting to say, I think we all took pride in the fact that like, hey, okay, we're at BYU, he's at Utah, so-and-so's here, and we all grew up playing together.
Yeah.
And so we were all a part of each other's journey. And so it was only just fun and cool to see everyone's success. And then a lot of us have had success beyond college as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. I wanted to ask a little bit about your shot. I feel like somebody's shot is almost like a fingerprint. Everybody has their own unique shot, and you've got a unique shot, and it's gorgeous, right? Like I think that you can have several different really good-looking shots. When did you develop that? It seems like it's pretty high release.
Yeah.
You elevate on your shot, kind of like that Jimmer Fredette. I think a lot of people noticed that when he was there too, because he just launched these
really
threes
high
while he was jumping really high. So was there a conscious effort to develop your shot in that way?
I developed it kind of on accident, and it's something that I still do to this day. I always knew, so as a kid, you shoot from like your hip a little bit, right, to get to the basket. And I naturally just was well coached where I had good mechanics. But I knew there came a point when you get to about 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you can't shoot from your hip anymore. You kind of have to like get it up above your head and be able to shoot like a natural jump shot. And so when I was younger, I knew that day would come. And so on small hoops, I played a lot of like small, like plastic hoop basketball, like Little Tykes basketball. Like I had one in my basement. And so whenever I was playing on like a smaller hoop, whether that be outdoor or like in my basement with like a little, rubber ball, I would shoot over my head like this. And I kind of would just get this muscle memory of just getting this high release, high follow through. And then when I got strong enough on a 10-foot hoop, I then started shooting like that. And I think a couple keys that I did so about 7th, 8th grade is when I was strong enough to do it like this. And I only shot that way though about 15 feet and in. So my freshman year here at East, I wasn't strong enough yet to shoot threes like this, which I look back and I'm glad I did, because a lot of times kids will rush wanting to shoot like this. And so they'll start shooting threes like this when they're not ready, and it'll mess up their mechanics. But I was very patient. So I'm a big believer in perfecting your craft and your form inside out. And so I became like an ultimate mid-range shooter where I was just shooting mid-range over my head, and then I'd shoot a set shot from 3. And I did that until about my sophomore year. Until then I was really able to like perfect shooting really high, jumping really high, and shooting like that way. But I kind of did it on accident because I just would practice on these like small little hoops at home. And then I made this rule for myself. If I was ever shooting on a hoop with lower than 10 feet or not a men's size ball, I'd shoot with my left hand. Okay. So I wouldn't affect that form. But I think that's an important thing. Like, don't rush. If you're coaching 6th, 7th, 8th grade kids and they shoot low and you're trying to get them to shoot higher because it's more effective and it's harder to guard and all that, don't rush them. Don't just go down the three-point line and just start jacking up shots from above your head. Like, let's start from inside and work our way out. And so that was one thing I was able to do. And so when I started shooting over my head from three, it was very natural.
Yeah. No, I love that. And again, like in the situations where we've been in the same place at the same time whenever I watch somebody who's really good, I kind of think to myself, how would I guard that? Mm-hmm. How would I be able to affect what they're trying to do? And watching you, I was like, I don't think I could block that. Yeah. Like, even if I knew it was coming, I don't think I could block that because we're similar sizes. And that's tough. So that shot is awesome. Take me through, you talked a little bit about your freshman, sophomore year here. You had a great career here at East High School, made famous by High School Musical, of course, which yes. I think it's an anniversary year this year.
I think it might be 20 anniversary, 2005 or 2006. So, yeah, it was done. The third movie was done by the time I was here, but it's still famous. There's still people taking tours to this day. Mm-hmm. And there'd be times we'd be in here in practice, and all of a sudden, like, a random group of girls from, like, Japan who are on a tour would be coming and, like, taking pictures and stuff like that. So it was a pretty cool experience to be at, like, the real East High School.
Yeah, yeah. Take me through that high school career of yours. What moments kind of stand out? You led the state in scoring, I believe, your junior year, your 4A Player of the Year. So what is your high school mentality at that point as you're taking basketball seriously? You're focusing on it a little bit more. What does that look like? I
loved my time here at East, and I was an East High kid first and foremost. And so people ask me, like, well, why did, East was a football school, and the basketball program wasn't great. And so a lot of people ask me, like, well, why didn't you go to Olympus, or why didn't you go team up with your friends at Lone Peak or anything like that? And I wanted to play at East. Like, I wanted to have success at East, and it meant something to me because this was the school I grew up. I grew up going to the football games. I grew up coming to the basketball games. So it meant something for me to come here and play in front of my community, playing with my friends, and to have success here. And so it was a little rough. Like, freshman year was a little rough. It was a great year for me. Was able to be a starter, and then sophomore year, I think we took a step where we had a winning season for the first time in a while. And I think we had a big monumental game on this floor. Actually, we were playing West, which is one of our main rivals, and they had Tyrell Corbin at the time, and they were about a year or two off a state championship run. So they were a much better program than us at the time, and they came in here and played us, and we won in overtime. I scored 39 points as a sophomore, and that was like the moment where it's like, okay, we've got something here. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the program's heading in a good direction, and that was a monumental win for East basketball at that time. And so that's definitely a moment that sticks out, is that East-West game my sophomore year, and we were only getting better after that season.
Scoring 39 points in a high school game as a sophomore is incredible. There are people who will never score that amount in any junior jazz, name it. What is your mentality to be that kind of a scorer on a high school level, and how are you getting those points?
I think Coach Skip Lowe was my coach while I was here, and I think he gave me confidence from the get-go, from the moment I walked into this gym. I always felt like he believed in me. I had a great relationship with my teammates at the time. Still, some of my closest friends are some of my teammates who I played with here, and just having that confidence to, even though I was young at the time, they had confidence in me to take those tough shots. And what helped me at a young age is, like we said, I had a higher jump shot. And so I wasn't as fast or as strong as some of those older kids, but if I could just get a little bit of advantage, I know they weren't going to block it. And I could just get to my spot and rise up and hit shots. So I was the mid-range king. It was all mid-range. And we ran a play about every time down the floor. At the end of the game, we ran a play where I would swing the ball and get a back pick from the wing, and I'd go down to, like, kind of the Karl Malone mid-post area, and I had a smaller guard on me, and I'd get the ball in the low post and just turn and face and just shoot a mid-range. Mm-hmm. And so the mid-range jump shot for me was what really helped me be a great scorer at a young age, because I was really efficient. I didn't have to use strength and speed to get all the way to the rim, and I had a high enough shot to shoot over, the smaller defenders, and then I wasn't just shooting tough threes all the time. So they were efficient, like easy shots that were hard to guard because of my high release.
39 is a lot, but that wasn't your career high.
Wasn't the career high.
There is a coach who said a quote here. I asked him, Mike, did you ever get a chance to coach against Parker Van Dyke? And he said he was a bucket getter. He could score at all the different levels, very crafty in high school. He probably had 30 on us, gym rat in a good way. We looked it up and you had 41 against his team. Do you remember what game this is?
American Fork, yeah.
Yes.
My senior year. And so that was another big moment for the program here. So we were playing in the Jordan Invitational Tournament in Jordan High School, your alma mater.
Yeah, go beat Diggers.
Yeah, there you go. And it was actually a very good tournament. Like there was American Fork, who was a really good team. Jordan was in it, who was really good that year. Juan Diego had a solid team. And in the semifinals, we're playing American Fork, who had Tyler Rawson, who ended up being my future teammate at Utah, Brendan Bailey, who's a really good player, who's a freshman, Ryan Andrews, who went to BYU. And not to toot my horn too much, but I think that was the most like perfect game I've ever played, because there's Utah high school games are 4 quarters of 8 minutes. It's not a lot of time, and so I had 41, and I just think I don't know how much I missed, and our team played great. We ended up winning that semifinal game, and then we beat Jordan in the championship, and it was right before region play, right before New Year's, and so going into region play, we ended up being ranked number 1 in 4A. And we won a huge preseason tournament, and something East hadn't done in years. And so that was a special moment for us, that when I came into the program, it was a football school and the basketball team was not very good at all. And then you fast forward 3-4 years and we're one of the top teams in the state, and just won this big time preseason tournament. We also beat Skyview in that tournament, who ended up winning it all that year. So it was a special game to be a part of, and that American Fork game. I mean, I remember I would bring it up to Tyler Rawson occasionally when we were at the U together. But special game.
That's awesome. There was another question that came through on Instagram that I think is related to a lot of this. Is growing up, and I want to focus more on like high school. What did your daily routine look like?
I'm grateful for my time here at East, because it set habits and standards. So when I got to college, it was kind of easy to enhance them, I guess. And so we would do a lot of morning workouts before school here. I remember like preseason, especially junior and senior year, like we would have like 5:30, 6 a.m. workouts. And so you'd come in here and you get a good workout in, then you go to school, and then you come into the gym after and get shots up. I just think it got to a point junior and senior year where I didn't really go a day without touching a basketball at some point. Ball handling, shooting, or anything like that.
And are you doing this outside of formal practice time?
I think I always, I was always in the gym when we were doing formal. So I didn't miss anything. You know, I tried, and we sacrificed as a family. Like that's something we took important. I don't know how many high school kids do that now, is like during the basketball season, like we didn't go on trips. Or like my extended family, we had like a Disneyland trip every December. But my family's rule, like once you got to high school and you were playing basketball, you don't go on that trip. Like, so you know, we would sacrifice for those things. And then, I'd still like, there'd be times if we didn't have anything in this gym, like, I'd get with my brothers and we'd go to the church and we'd shoot and we'd do stuff like that. I think as I look back at some of my younger AAU years as well, and I think we overlook it now as kids, is play 3-on-3, play 2-on-2. Make sure you're playing a lot. When I was a kid, I didn't have like a trainer and was doing skill workouts. I was just getting with my team and we were just playing 3-on-3, or we were doing 3-on-2, 2-on-1 drills, or so I was just finding ways to play as much as I could during my daily routine, and something we can touch on later and especially when I get to college, is like the weight room and my diet, the way I ate, which feeds into a lot of good things too.
I was going to ask you, are you in the weight room in high school yet, or does that come later?
High school, it was like I got a little bit of a foundation in the weight room, but the weight room, I never did extra. It was just like, if our team's lifting, I'll do it. But it was much more work in the gym. But then once I got to college, that's when the weight room really becomes a huge priority. And that's where I actually fell in love with the weight room was once I got to college.
Yeah, let's finish up the high school, because I've got a lot that I wanted to ask you about college. So with high school and a lot of our videos with Rylan, with Coach Jonesy at Highland, they talk about this. People are in the gym with their trainers doing 1-on-0, doing all of this bag work. And the realities of college especially is that's not what the game looks like. So for these high school kids that are with trainers, with everything else, and just as a heads up, a lot of the comments that come on TikTok and everything come from this conversation of what advice do you have to kids who are working on their bag work versus where maybe should their time be spent if they are wanting to play at the next level and be more efficient in games?
I think you got to have a healthy balance of multiple things. So I don't hate on kids who have a trainer who do individual work, because I think that's important. You got to be skilled. You have to be skilled. You got to be able to handle the ball. You got to be able to score. You got to be able to shoot. So I think you need a balance of that. But I also think you need to balance, you got to play 5-on-5. You got to play in game situations. The game's not played 1-on-0. You've got to find a balance of where I'm playing and I'm working on individual work. I don't want to do 100% of one or 100% of the other. I would say I'd err on the side of playing, but if you're a kid and you find yourself, everything you're working on outside of like practice and stuff is all 1-on-0, I would just adjust that a little bit. And then I think a big thing I'd ask myself is like, be realistic about what kind of player you are. And most guards from Utah, like, you got to be able to catch and shoot. If you cannot be a consistent catch and shoot shooter, then all of your multiple ball handling drills to get into it, multiple ball handling moves to get into a shot is meaningless. I think we got to start with the basics first. If you can be a knockdown catch and shoot shooter, now we can go off that. And so I think like you got to do that first. And just whenever you're doing anything, again, we're going back to like when you practice, you make sure it's like a game. Just make sure you're doing game moves. You can do a good ball handling move, but just make sure it's in 3 dribbles, not 10.
Yeah.
And just being efficient on your moves. Like, don't get me wrong. Like in high school, I worked on constantly like in and out crossovers into jump shots, in and out crossovers into drives and spins and things like that. And you want to be a good dynamic one-on-one player, but just being efficient with it.
Yeah.
And just make sure everything you're doing is like, could I do this in a game? Even if it is 1-on-0, could I do this in a game? And if the answer is no, then don't do it.
I'm amazed at watching a lot of these high school kids where sometimes they will make a move and they will have their guy beat, and then they'll pull it back as part of it. I don't know if it's a move they've worked on or whatever, but it's like, you had him beat. Like, just go get a layup but they're doing step back stuff. And so it's your efficiency thing, like, rings true to me as I'm watching these guys. As soon as you get an advantage, take it. Don't give it up.
When I work on that note, when I work with high school kids, I do these things I say every varsity basketball player needs to be able to do this. And okay, catch and shoot 3. Okay, catch, read a closeout, drive 1 dribble, get to the rim, finish. Catch, drive 1 dribble, 2 dribble, reverse layup. Like, coaches love simple, basic plays. And so do that first. Master those things. Make sure you can do those things. And now let's be a tough shot maker. Okay? But if you can't just focus, the best players, they take advantage of like what the defense is giving them. And so focus on those first. Do those things that every varsity basketball player should be able to do. Okay, now we'll talk about end of shot clock. You got to get separation to hit a 3 kind of thing. Then we'll go from there.
When did recruiting for college start to happen for you, and what did that look like?
I remember so I played Salt Lake Metro all the way up through high school. So once I got to high school, it's Dave Hammers, the guy who started Salt Lake Metro. And so he kind of took it over, and I ended up playing for him throughout high school. And I remember once you get to high school, you start going to these tournaments where there's college coaches on the side. And I didn't know how good I was. And so I remember just seeing these like small schools, like coaches of these small schools as I'm walking into these gyms. And I'm like, man, I would love to play there anywhere, Cal Poly or even, somewhere even smaller than that. And I just had no idea like what level I was. And then in between my freshman, sophomore year, I get a call from Coach Lacombe at BYU. And that's when I realized like, oh, okay, I've got something here. And for about 15 minutes, I thought I could play at BYU. I'm a Utah fan my whole life. I was like, man, okay, I can maybe play at BYU if they were the only ones who offered me. And then 15 minutes later, Coach Jones, who was at Utah State, actually called me. And I'm like, oh, I'd go to Utah State over BYU. But those phone calls, I remember getting those. Again, I think it was my sophomore year. I realized like, oh, okay, this is a possibility. I could play. And so in between my sophomore and junior years, when recruiting really started to pick up, and it's the time I stopped playing basketball. And so during that off season, that's because I wasn't playing football, coaches were able to come into the gym. So about every week in the fall, there was a college coach coming into here to watch me work out. And so that's where recruiting like really, really picked up, was going into my junior year.
And what does that look like? Are they just saying, hey, we think you're really great, would you consider us? Are they trying to get you to commit as early as possible? What are those conversations in reality look like for kids who are hoping this happens?
Yeah, and the recruiting process has changed so much because there's a lot more factors involved than I was involved. But there was, and I'm not sure exactly what the restrictions, but back then I think a coach could contact you once a week over the phone. So usually how it would happen is a college coach who knew of me, who was interested in me, would reach out to either my high school coach or my AAU coach. They'd get my number, and then they'd either call you and they'd talk to you and it was like, hey, this is Coach so-and-so from this school, and just want to, introduce yourself and say, like, we're interested in recruiting you. And then they'd come visit you at your school, or they'd invite you to come to like on a visit or something like that. And then, so usually it's like 2 or 3 conversations. They come and see you, and then they would offer you. That's kind of how it would look like. But I just remember getting it was one day a week where I would get like a couple texts from coaches saying, hey, we're interested in recruiting you and things like that.
What advice would you give to kids, high school kids now getting recruited? Again, knowing it's a little different, but they're getting recruited. What advice would you give them?
I would say first, enjoy it. Enjoy the recruiting process. It's fun. It's fun to be, wined and dined, for lack of a better term, and so I think enjoy the process. I would say take it serious and, ask questions. And I think a big advice that was huge when I was getting recruited is, so you get to a point where schools invite you to come on a visit. And my advice always was, don't commit when you're on a visit. Because when you're on, every time I went on a visit, wherever I was, that's where I wanted to go. Because you're just kind of drinking the Kool-Aid. They are showing you all the great things. You're kind of mesmerized by the campus and all of that. You need to kind of go home and come back down to reality and evaluate every option with kind of a more clear mind. Because I've seen some stories of people go on these visits and they just get blown away, and they end up committing on the spot, and it ends up not being the best place for them. So I would just think, don't commit on your visits. I would think, and then also view your options beyond basketball. So that was a big thing for me in my recruiting process is, what did I want my life to look like? Like, what if I went to this school, what would my life outside of basketball look like? And so it's a big life decision. So take it as a life decision, not just a basketball decision.
Why the U? I know that you were a lifelong University of Utah fan, but take me through that commitment process and your family and everything else that was going on in that. And I'm sure it was a big moment.
Love the Utes. So similar to what I was saying to East, I grew up a huge Utah fan. And so it was
maintain the same colors.
So same colors, red and white.
Wardrobe stays the same.
Yeah. Didn't have to change much. So I love the U, and it was a huge part of my family. So grew up going to all the basketball games, all the football games. And so it was kind of always a dream of mine to play for Utah. And it was an exciting time as I was coming up through the ranks because Utah had just gone to the Pac-12. And that was kind of a thing that's like, every in-state player, you should want to go to an in-state school unless you can get like a Pac-10 offer, because that's like another level. But then when Utah joined the Pac-12, it was like, man, okay, you can stay here and play against the Arizonas, the UCLAs, the Oregons, and play at that extra, that step up from like the Mountain West or what it used to be. And so it was always kind of a dream of mine. After my sophomore year, Jim Boylan got fired and they hired Coach K and Tommy Connor, who I was close with at Westminster. And so I was really excited about that. Utah basketball program was not in a great situation. They were total rebuild mode. And so I wasn't really excited about where they were heading. They also didn't recruit me as hard as some of the other schools did initially. So Utah State and Arizona State for me were like my 2 front runners right off the bat. Like they were very invested, very interested, offered me before Utah. And so if there was a little bit of time there where I kind of felt disrespected by Utah. They had offered other in-state kids in my class and not me. And I was the East High kid. I was, I wanted to be there. And so for a while there, for me, it was between Utah State, Arizona State, or Stanford. Those were kind of my serious considerations. Utah was always in the picture, but it just wasn't there. But then, I saw the progression of Utah. I saw kind of what Coach K and that staff was doing with not a very talented team and what he was starting to build. And then I started asking myself, man, could I really go somewhere else and play against Utah? Could I walk into the Huntsman Center and not be wearing a Utah uniform? And as I started to consider those things and life beyond basketball, I knew I was going to go on a mission, and I kind of wanted to settle in Utah. And if you go outside of Utah, it's not a bad thing, but you just would kind of be making connections outside of the state where you probably want to live. So I just started thinking about life beyond basketball and what would I want my life to look like after it, and how could going to the U impact my life beyond it. And so then it became very clear to me, this is the spot I want to go. I want to be a Ute, and I want to kind of have that legacy of being the local in-state kid. And it was a great decision, and my life has been so blessed because of that. because of that decision in more ways than just basketball.
Yeah.
And so it for me, it became very clear. And I love the Utes, man. I'm as Utah as you can get.
Yeah. We're at that point. We're transitioning from high school to college here. Wrapping up all of this, if you could go back to the start of your junior year today with what your knowledge that you have now, what would you have done different?
Man, I don't think I would have done. It worked out pretty seamless. The only thing I would have think is like, man, what if I would have played football?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I have dreams of those like Friday Night Lights, and being able to be like the starting quarterback would have been really special. But I look back and I really am so grateful for the coaches I had in my life and how I was humble and hungry still, even though I was starting to get some praise as my junior from like the outside, from the college recruits and things like that. And it's easy to kind of get ahead of yourself, get a full head. But I was grateful for my parents as well. I stayed humble. I stayed hungry. I tried to pursue. I think maybe not a fear, but a motivation of mine at that age was I was terrified of not being better than I was the year before. And so it's like, okay, I averaged 18 as a sophomore. I've got to average more. I got to average like 20 at least. And so every year I was just trying to like get better. And I think a lot of it goes to just I had great family support, great coaches who just kept me humble and grounded and like made me realize like you're great, but you can always get better. There's always a step up. And so that's what I would say to these kids. Like there's always someone better than you. You're never as good as you think you are, but you're also never as bad as you think you are. So stay humble, continue to grind, continue to do the things that got you that praise. And I think it will work out for sure. So I can gladly say I don't think I would change anything.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
I think that's a very unique place to be. So that's congratulations to you and everyone that was a part of that, because that's awesome. So now you're going to the University of Utah to play basketball. I think people in Utah will be pretty familiar with this, but you go on a church service mission. So for 2 years, what was that like having 2 years off of basketball and like formal intense basketball and then coming back and trying to get into shape?
I loved my mission. First off, I served in the Alabama Birmingham mission. And so I love the South, and it helped as being a stateside missionary because it's much easier to play basketball in the States. A lot of the churches still have like basketball gyms, stuff like that. So I played a lot of basketball on my mission for sure. On our days off, I'd play a lot. And had served with some great missionaries who were also great athletes. And for me, my mission only helped my basketball career. I mean, it was 2 years. I grew into my body. I came home a lot stronger.
Did that deep Southern food put some weight on you?
Yeah, all the butter and oil and all they have. The South is so funny because you go to a barbecue place and they'll ask you for what veggies do you want on your side, and the veggies are like mac and cheese and fried okra and baked beans and potato salad. I'm like, those aren't veggies, but anyway. So I just love the South, and I came home just like bigger and stronger, way more mature, way more secure and confident, and so I was a way better leader. I was way more natural being vocal and had a lot more confidence in myself. And so for me, when I came back as a sophomore, in some ways it was like a second freshman year because the speed of the game, it was hard to adjust to the speed of the game once again. But I felt like physically, like I was way more prepared to play Pac-12 level basketball. I just was stronger. I was smarter. I think I was a more focused, like work ethic, and was a way prepared to become like a much better leader. So in a lot of ways, taking those 2 years off to kind of grow and mature really helped me.
I have another quote from a coach for you. Parker is the true definition of persevering. Went through years of having unsure roles and playing time was always an unknown, but he was a Ute first and foremost and always a team first guy. Never a bad attitude, just always grateful. Just stayed the course, worked his butt off and got better. Then when consistent playing time presented itself, he took full advantage and had a great senior year. In this day and age of transfer portal, guys like Parker don't exist. So you go in, you've been, again, player of the year, all of the attention, all of the offense run through you in high school, and now you go to the University of Utah, and I think you're in a little bit different role. So what was that like, accepting that role and putting in that time when you're not the guy anymore?
Yeah. So I think every player needs to understand, so you're a high school player, you've been the guy pretty much your whole life. At least in high school, you're like the main guy. You go to college, so is everyone else. Everyone else was also the guy. And then there's also guys who are there who've been there 2 or 3 years longer than you, who are they're more ready for the positions that, those like the guide positions. And so I showed up to Utah and DeLon Wright's there. And so you kind of learn right away, like, okay, there's some really good players. And so you have to understand, like, I have to earn it. I have to earn it. And so I had that one mentality is anything I had to earn. And then the reality is you may have 5 guys who are capable of being the guy, but you can't have 5 of them. And so the reality is just like the team, the coaches or the team, they select, these are the kind of guys we're going to ride, and we need everyone else to fill roles. And so as a player, you've got 1 or 2 options. One, you fight it and you go against it and you transfer or whatever, or you complain, or you embrace it and prove to your coach, like, hey, I can have success in this role and I can actually do more. And so I would say, like, embrace the role that you've been given, but don't settle for it. Like, still try to improve your game and try to enhance your game, but embrace what you've been given. And so what really helped me is I think back to my AAU days when I was playing on a stacked team and I had to take a different kind of role. I was able to apply that in college. And it's hard because you go from, you can lose confidence a little bit because you're like, oh my gosh, I was this guy who was averaging like 25 points a game, and now I'm here and I'm just happy to just get on the floor. I would say a couple things that also were to my advantage is I wanted to have success at Utah. I was a Ute. And so for me, when I hit a wall, like if I didn't feel like I was getting what I deserved, or if like I didn't get the playing time I wanted or whatever, I was willing to fight through that because to me, there was going nowhere else.
Yeah.
Because every player wants to have success. Every player wants to play well, but I wanted to do it at Utah because that meant something to me. And so that helped me persevere through some things where I think a lot of players wouldn't. They just go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to do it. I wanted to have success at Utah.
Were those conversations that you had with the coaches there of them saying like, hey, Parker, realistically, here's what this year looks like for you. Here's your role. Master this? Or was that more of like you're just grinding it out and hoping to get on the floor, as you said? Like, what does that communication look like between you and the head coach, or probably more with assistant coaches during that time?
I don't remember having any specific coaches about or conversations with like, hey, this is what you need to do and this is what you don't do, or things like that. I just think you just kind of keep grinding, working. And the one thing about the coaching staff, what they did a great job is they never stopped coaching me. Mm-hmm. Like, they believed in me the whole time. And I think it was made pretty clear that like, okay, this is what we need you to do. And just, here's the thing. If you want to play in college, you got to be able to defend. Mm-hmm. So if you can focus on defense first, if you can defend your position, you can rebound in your position, then we'll take care of the other things. And so I just think for me, it was not very like specific. I think I just kind of fell into the role by just continuing to show up every day and continuing to be coached and just embracing the coaching that I was receiving instead of fighting against it.
I love how you talk about the defensive side of things, and this isn't meant to offend anybody, but you're 6'3", 6'4"-ish?
6'3".
6'3". You're a white guy from Utah.
Yeah.
You are in the top in terms of athletes in the world. You're up there as the top, but it's funny because as I walk around, I'm 6'3", 6'4", and it's like, oh, you're really tall. It's like, but when you get into the basketball world, you're not. Mm-mm. And so now you're very athletic in the world scheme of things, but in the basketball world, you're good. You're a good athlete.
Yeah.
How do you get to the point where you are able to defend these guys in the Pac-12 that are big, strong, freak athletes that are showing up there? What is that mindset like? What are you working on during this time? You had brought up your fit daily routines as well as diets. Like, what's going into becoming a good athlete and becoming as good of that athlete as you can be?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, the Pac-12 at that time, every team had an NBA player on the team. Mm-hmm. And, from Lonzo Ball to Aaron Holiday to Alonzo Trier and, Dylan Brooks and all these guys, Peyton Pritchard. So every night we were going up against NBA level talent. So I think for a guy like me, 6'3", shooting guard, I don't have I don't have very long arms or anything like that. I don't jump high or anything like that. Weight room is huge. It's very important. And that's something that high school kids got to, if they're going to play at the next level, they got to get ready to embrace the weight room, because it really enhances your strength, your speed, your quickness. Like, use it as a resource Like make sure the strength coach should be like your best friend. I love my college strength coach. Like to this day, we're still in touch, and he made a huge impact on me where he helped me like reach my potential, I think, athletically. So the weight room is huge. Take it serious.
Is he putting together workouts for you? Or is it more self-directed? What did that look like?
Yeah. So the strength coach, if you're at a high level college, the strength coaches are professionals. I mean, they are first class type guys where they will do specific things for you. Like, hey, this is what we need. We need to get quicker laterally. We need to get faster. We need to lose weight. We need to put on muscle. And so you'll have some plans that are specific for you to reach your goals, and just embrace it. Going in those situations, just be a sponge and just absorb it. And, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but that's such a big thing, I think. Be the guy that coaches love to coach. Be the guy who just embraces everything that they're saying and trust that they can get you where you want to go. They're on your side, and they're not here to put you down. They're here to enhance you. And so that was the mentality I took into the weight room, is like, hey, if I follow this guy's game plan, for me, this is going to get me where I want to go. And where I want to go is I just want to get on the court and be able to, defend. So that's huge. And then defensively, IQ and effort go a long way. So you want to be the guy, the scouting report, the player you're guarding is their tendencies, their personnel, the game plan. That goes a long way. And then just defense, a lot of it is just effort, like wanting to guard. And so when I was early in my college career and I was just kind of working on getting in the rotation consistently or like working to get on the floor, I would simplify the game. I would say, okay, I'd check in the game and I'm like, I'm not here to score 20 points. I'm here to defend my guy and to rebound and maybe like get a deflection or like get a shot for somebody else. And then it's funny how the game of basketball will reward you when you have that mentality. When you go in with an unselfish team first mentality, the game rewards you. All of a sudden you get an open corner three and you hit it. Or you get a fast break layup. And now you're feeling it, right? You're defending, you're rebounding, and you're scoring. And so for me defensively, I locked in the weight room, effort, and then know the personnel, know the game plan. Don't be that player that doesn't know the scouting report.
What does that daily routine look like mid-season as you're going through the scouting report? I'm assuming film sessions are a big part of this, making sure you're eating well, you're getting the rest that you need, you still have homework, and you're going for a degree of some sort. So what does that daily routine look like for you?
Colleges do, high-level college basketball programs do such an amazing job of they have all the resources for you. Time management is very easy because they have the scheduling for you. A typical day for a college basketball athlete would be like, okay, during the season, let's say, I'd wake up, usually have like one class in the morning. So you wake up, you go to class. After class, there's multiple ways you can get food. And at the U, there's the football facility, there's a fueling station where the weight room is, and all of that food is great quality. So you're putting in great food into your body. Side note, I would get frustrated with some of my teammates who wouldn't take advantage of those things. First, it's free, and second, it's great food, and that's such an important part of your diet, and what you eat is so important. Where we would have teammates who just like go to McDonald's and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, you don't need to do that. Like, this is all free, and it's good food. So it's like, go to class in the morning, get a good breakfast. Usually then you go to the weight room. So you go into the weight room and you have like a team lift. And then after that you have practice. And then after practice you have study hall. And so then that's when you go and you do all your homework. And so your day was just very organized. So if you just utilize the time allotted for what the day asks you to do, then you're able to tackle all of those things. You're able to get your work in the weight room, get your work in the gym, and you're going to be able to get your schoolwork done. And if you do all those things, then you have other things. You have a social life and all of that. So,
what was that transition from high school to college in terms of the conditioning aspect? So we're kind of in the preseason for our high school team, and it's trying to get people in shape.
Yeah.
I remember the very first time I played varsity basketball, and I got in the game, and I thought I was fine, like a good player and everything, and I couldn't breathe. Like a few times up and down the court, it was just so much more intense, so much faster, and I think that jump up to college is a whole nother level too. So
it is.
What does that conditioning look like for a college program to get you in shape to be ready for that? Not just the weight room.
Yeah.
The cardio side.
It's cardio side. One, we benefit. This can be, sometimes this is a blessing and a curse, is our elevation that we live at. So one is we train at elevation, so that helps. So when you go play at a sea level place like in California, I never got tired when I played in California. Yeah. I felt like I could run forever. But then what coaches say is like, hey, we're at elevation, so we're going to be the most conditioned team. So we're going to run like crazy. You know what I mean? So they kind of use it like as a negative too. Yeah, that conditioning was really a part of it. So a preseason schedule of workouts for a college basketball team, you have limited time in the gym. I think you can have like 4 hours in the gym with coaches. Mm-hmm. So we would have like Monday would be like, I think like our Mondays was weights and conditioning. Tuesday was weights and practice. Wednesday was just weights. Thursday was weights and practice, and then Friday was conditioning. So like 2 or 3 days a week, we would do some like, you're conditioning in practice because you're playing, but then two or 3 days a week, we do like some serious conditioning. So we would utilize the track. You know, we usually had like a mile test every year where like they would have marks like, hey, you got to get under like 5:30, you got to run a mile under 5:30, or we go on a football field and run, things like that. So again, just absorbing that and just absorbing what your coaches are telling you, like, hey, this is what we need to do to get in shape. And just whenever you're faced with those hard things, nobody likes to condition. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes to run. Whenever you're faced with those hard things, you have 2 choices. 1, fight it and be negative about it and have a bad attitude and bring everyone else around you down. Or 2, embrace it and buy in and realize like, hey, this is going to help me get better. This is going to help me when I get in the game, I'm going to be in shape. I'm going to be able to play at my best. And this is going to help our team. So respond with, I'd rather be the guy who's like, yeah, this sucks, but like, let's go get this. And that, I think that goes a long way. One more thing too. I always tell this to other people. I never get out of shape. I maybe am not, there's times I'm in great shape and just good shape, but I never let myself get out of shape. Mm-hmm. So when those days come when you have to run and condition, they're not miserable.
Is that still focusing pretty heavily on your diet?
Yeah. So that's a big thing I learned in college is how important it is to refuel your workouts. So I graduated East. I'm like 175. Strength coach sits me down like, we need you at 190. And so before the season. And so I was able to put on 15 pounds very easily. And I think the weight room work is about 50% of it. The other 50% of it is like, how are you refueling your workouts? And in college, it's easy because it's all right there for you. And so you kind of learn nutritionally is, okay, after I work out, don't not eat, go to go to the cafeteria and make sure you have like a balanced meal. You have your vegetables, you have your protein, you have your carbs, things like that. You drink your protein shakes, things like that. It's so easy for you as a college athlete because they have all the resources there. Just take advantage of it. And build those good habits, because then now beyond college, I still have those same habits. I don't have the same resources, but I still have the same habits. But that's where I saw so many guys in college, I would see 2 guys both working really hard in the weight room. One would refuel properly, the other one wouldn't. And the one who would refuel properly would just immediate growth, immediate gains. And so do not underestimate your nutrition. I'm also a big water guy. I only drink water. And I think that really helps when it comes to conditioning. Yeah. Hydrating.
No, this is great. It's so much of this college experience. We haven't even gotten to like on the court stuff really, but the reality of it is, I mean, you have your games, but so much is done off the court or outside of games. So much more of your life is there because of getting ready for those little moments. So let's move to those games. What things kind of stick out to you as you're going through your college career? And I want to get to, there was a dunk that happens, and that kind of triggers a few games of happiness. We'll call it. Leading up to that, what sticks out about your college experience playing in the games?
Yeah, again, amazing. The Huntsman Center, especially when the Huntsman Center is going, when we have it fits 15,000. And when I was at Utah, people kind of hate on the Utah basketball program the last few years, but when I was at Utah had the second highest average attendance in the conference behind Arizona. So we still had great attendance. We had the highest winning percentage from 2010 to 2020. We had the second highest winning percentage in the conference. And from 14 to 19, we had the highest average finish in the conference. So I was a part of some successful teams. Now we didn't go to the tournament, and that's a conversation for another time, but we won a lot of games. And so it was special for me to be an in-state kid, grow up watching games, and then going to be a player on that floor and having some big moments and winning a lot of games in the Huntsman Center. And so, I loved it. I miss walking out, running out onto the court for warm-ups and the band's playing the fight song. And to me, that was a dream. Those were things I dreamed of. And so it was special. And man, we had some fun games against some big time players. Like, one year we had DeAndre Ayton, who was the #1 draft pick, come and play against us. We had Lonzo Ball come in at UCLA and all these guys. We had the Oregon team who ended up going to the Final Four with Peyton Pritchard and Dylan Brooks and Tyler Dorsey and all these guys. And so countless fun memories of being able to play on the floor against some high level competition.
Who was the most difficult person you had to play against? And then who was the best player you got to play with?
Difficult player to play against. I think Dylan Brooks was the best college basketball player we played because he just had a monster senior year. They were the best team. They were really good. They went to the Final Four that year, like I said. The hardest guy I had to guard, I remember NIT my junior year, we played LSU at home, and it was a little guard named Tremont Waters, who's a big-time player overseas. He's been in and out of the NBA, but that was one dude I was like, I cannot guard this guy. Shifty, quick guard. Everyone else, I felt like, even the good guys, I felt like, okay, I at least could stay in front. They may score on me, but I could still stay in front. And then, I had an interesting perspective of Kyle Kuzma because my freshman year before my mission, Kyle came in as like a gray shirt. He left high school early just to be like a gray shirt on our team. And he came in and he was just kind of like just this young high school kid. He was out of shape and he talked a big game. And he was just like, I'm gonna be an NBA player one day. And everyone's like, no way. But then when I came back from my mission, he had completely transformed his body, his mentality. Talk about a guy who loved the game, worked at it, and was dedicated and focused. Like, he turned himself into an NBA player. Yeah. And so he was our leader my sophomore year, and he led us in scoring and rebounding, and first team all Pac-12 player. And so it was really special. I played with a lot of great players, and I could name a bunch, but it was just special to see his transition from 18-year-old Kyle Kuzma to 22-year-old NBA version Kyle Kuzma.
Speaking of characters in your life around this time, a lot of people were wondering whatever came with Chaz Chaddickson, and where is he at these days?
Oh, Chad Chadrickson.
Chad Chadrickson.
Wow, you did some serious digging.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. So for those that don't know, my sophomore year we had a tournament in Hawaii, and we had a lot of downtime for that trip. Those trips are so fun because they're kind of half business for basketball and then half fun. And so Hawaii, we were just in Honolulu, I think, and just walking around the streets. And I just created this alter ego of this local surfer guy named Chad Chadrickson. And Bo Rideout, who was one of the teammates, just would film me, and I just would walk around and just talk to the locals, or just pretend I was a local and just kind of come up with all these nonsense. But we posted it. I think Bo posted them on Instagram and stuff like that, and they kind of got viral a little bit. They were getting passed around so I was this alter ego, this Chad Chadrickson surfer guy. I'm shocked that you found those, but they're some pretty funny moments for sure.
That's awesome. Well, and I think so much of this career, it's the people that you meet, right? You talked about some of your high school teammates are still some of your best friends, and in college you're going to have all these moments of things that you'll look back on and really enjoy. So take me through the dunk and what's going on and what the next few weeks after that look like. My senior year was a rough start. We were a really young team. My junior year, we were really, really good. Probably the best team I had in Utah. We ended up going to the NIT championship and lost in the championship, but had a great run. And then my senior year, the dynamic of our team completely changed. All of a sudden, we were a really old and veteran experienced team. We became a really young team with a lot of talented freshmen, but we were young. So we had a rough preseason, and I remember our first conference game. We're at Arizona State. We're down 20, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a rough year. We ended up coming back and winning the game and ended up having a great conference year. But I love that year because I was already a captain on the team, but I was really having to be a leader because I was the oldest on the team. I was the one with the most experience, me and the other seniors. And we had some talented freshmen, Riley Batten, Booth Gotch, Timmy Allen, that needed to kind of be shown the way. And we needed them to produce like juniors and seniors, and they ended up doing it, and they were great. And so I really took, about halfway through the year, I really took ownership of that team. And I'm like, do you know what? If we're going to be good, I've got to pick it up. Mm-hmm. I've got to be better. And so I struggled up and down with my confidence when I was at college. Am I good enough to do this? Am I good enough to be a leader? Am I good enough to be like a leading scorer type of thing? And I wavered a lot. We're playing at home against Washington State. And I get this steal, and I have a breakaway, and I can dunk, but I'd only dunked in a game one other time in my life in high school. And my body was just feeling really good, and I jumped up and just threw it down with two hands,
And all of a sudden, this amount of confidence that I had never felt in college just hit me. And it led to this month stretch just about where I think I was averaging upwards of 15, 16 points a game throughout the rest of conference. I was one of the top 3-point shooters in the conference. And it's funny because I didn't think it was the dunk initially until I looked back, but everyone started pointing out, all the Pac-12 like announcers like Parker Van Dyke, they would like put up like graphics. It was like since the dunk, Van Dyke shooting almost 50% from the field or whatever and stuff like that. And so it was just this really cool moment that for some reason just like lifted this kind of my own burden off my shoulders, and it allowed me to kind of like fully reach my potential in college. And so, I'm grateful for that moment.
I think that one clearly is going to stick with you for the rest of your life. There was another big one at UCLA that I think was probably a big moment in your life as well that happened just after that.
Yeah. So I had a couple big moments against UCLA during my career, but obviously the one that stands out is one that I'll never forget. And I'm still like remembered to this day. And I think people remember me for this shot and they view me as a way better player than I actually was, but that's okay. So at UCLA, Pauley Pavilion, and that's a special place to play. There's so much history there. You walk in that gym and there's championship banners for as far as the eyes can see. And you've got Bill Walton and Reggie Miller and all these iconic players up in the rafters. And yeah, we're down 22. And my favorite part to tell about that story is in the Pac-12, you would go on the road. The goal, you play 2 games at home and then 2 games on the road. And the goal in order to be one of the top teams in the Pac-12 is you wanted to win both games at home and you wanted to split on the road. Like if you did that the whole conference season, you're in a good position. And so Thursday night, we'd already beaten USC. So we go into UCLA. We kind of like already accomplished our goal. You obviously want to win every game, but we had split. So we go into UCLA, and they're destroying us. So we call a timeout in the second half. And Coach K was funny like this. I remember there's times where we'd sit in a timeout and just silence. Nobody would say anything. And we're just kind of looking around. We're down 20. There's like 16 minutes left in the game. And he pretty much just says like, all right, let's just finish strong and have good momentum heading into next week, pretty much. So that's what we do. And it's dangerous when you're playing a team that has nothing to lose. And that's how we felt. And so all of a sudden, as time goes on, we just start chipping away. You look up, oh, we're down 10. We're down 5. We're down 6 or whatever like that. And so as the game was going on and we could starting to feel that this was going to happen, that we were going to have a chance to come back, we made this switch in the huddle late in the game where typically the 4-man takes the ball out of bounds. But Coach Connor had me, he's like, okay, now every time they score, you take the ball out of bounds and trail the play. So for the last couple minutes, if you watch the game, I'm taking the ball out of bounds every time we need to, which is an adjustment.
Do you know why he did that? Was he setting up what's about to happen, or like why did he make that adjustment?
I think he was setting up a potential, because he was setting up a potential shot if we needed it for me to trail the play, because it's a very hard play to guard, which I'll explain. And so everyone. One thing about that game is I kind of get remembered because I hit the final shot, but that was a by committee comeback. I got hot in the second half. I ended up hitting 5 threes and scoring all my points in the second half. But like Riley Batten had a huge game, and Booth Gotch hit some big threes, and Cedric Bearfield and Timmy Allen. Like we had some big moments. Everyone had their moment in that game, in that comeback. And so we get to a point where we foul them, and they're on the line up 1, and they make 1 for 2. And so then they make the second one. We're down 2, 6 seconds left, and I take the ball out of bounds and I pass into Cedric. And I think this is what Coach Connor was setting up, is because the thing was, and they were telling Cedric to look for me trailing. And so Cedric did a good job. He brings the ball up the right side of the floor, and he crosses over to the left in front of the guy who's supposed to be guarding me. And so he's kind of acting as like a screener and a passer at the same time. And so as I trail behind him and he flips it to me, I have an opening because he's kind of screening my guy. And so as he flipped it back to me, I just jumped up and shot it. And going back, I remember running up the side of the floor, and it was the most calm I had ever been. For some reason, I was so calm and composed and secure and confident in that moment. And I think it was just because we had nothing. We were down 22. Yeah. No one expected us to win. But I was so calm as I came across. And as he flipped to me, I just jumped up and shot it. It was one of those shots, like the moment you let it go, It was, you knew it was in.
Game is 6 seconds. Watch the trail now. They trail by as many as 22. It's the lead. He got it!
and just, pure euphoria when I made it and we celebrated. And it's still such a fun celebration to see everyone run off the bench. And again, I mean, just a shot that will always be remembered, and an amazing comeback, an amazing team win. And yeah, it was such a special moment.
That is super cool. I've heard you tell the story a few times as I've done my internet stalking or research or whatever you want to call it. And,
yeah,
and,
impressive.
But no, I think like there's so much that goes into that, and the X's and O's of basketball I think is something that's fun to think through, and I think that a lot of people don't watch and look for, but a lot of things happen with that is that setup, right? Is him starting like, hey, start taking the ball out so it doesn't look strange anymore as this is going to happen, right? And because I think that if that switched all of a sudden, they might have sent up some triggers on the defensive end to say, hey, what's going on? And then I talk with my guys all the time about where you're positioning on a screen or on a dribble handoff or on anything else. And so Cedric having that presence of mind to like, okay, I'm going to get in the way to give you this little shot pocket.
Yeah.
If he just runs and doesn't do that, things could turn out differently. But
yeah, it was a great play.
There have been moments in my life too where plays not to that level or anything like that, but I'll revisit them in times where whether it's sad or I can't sleep or something like those moments to like, hey, I'm going to calm down and revisit those. So that's cool that you have that.
It's true. Yeah, you can't. It's hard to be in a bad mood when you look back at that.
There was another question from Instagram I wanted to ask here from Cannon Lunt. Where was the hardest atmosphere you had to play?
That's a great question. Cannon's my cousin, who's actually a player at East High School right now. So
nice.
Good question. Arizona was the hardest atmosphere, and the best atmosphere, I would say. I played at some others. Played at Rupp Arena in Kentucky. Played at Hinkle Fieldhouse, Butler. Really, really, really good places. Arizona was the toughest and the hardest because I never won there. That's the only place in the Pac-12 I didn't win at, and I don't think Utah has ever since they've been in the same conference. But that place just gets rocking. They have the best intro video and like highlights and like starting lineup introduction. Like it's just a really cool place, and they're always really good. And like when I played them, they had Lauri Markkanen and DeAndre Ayton and Aaron Gordon one year, and like they're always stacked. And so my senior year, actually, I actually missed a game winner at Arizona, kind of an off the dribble three from the top of the key. And I just missed it. It felt like I was going in, and I just missed it. And after that game, I was, Coach K and the other coaches gave me all the confidence and were like, hey, we wanted you to take that shot. And I just said to them, I said, I'm going to hit the next one. And Coach K said, I know you will. And then a couple weeks later, I hit the UCLA shot. So, man, I wish I had got a win there at Arizona, but that's the toughest atmosphere, and that's a really fun place to play.
That's cool. So going back to the similar question we had for high school, if you could go back to your senior year at the University of Utah, is there anything that you would have done differently besides make that shot at Arizona?
Yeah, make the shot at Arizona. If I would have had the Arizona and UCLA, that would have been great, but that's getting a little too greedy. I think about it a lot. I think there's two things I would have done differently at Utah, or three, I guess. I think one, I wouldn't have put so much pressure on myself. I had that little bit of that toxic perfectionism as a player too much. I was so harsh on myself and my mistakes, and I lost confidence easily. I've grown a lot since then, and so I wish I would have been better at that and I think this is a strength of mine, and I think it's a strength of a leader, but sometimes I did it to a fault, is when things were going south, if the team wasn't doing well, or you felt like you were getting a bad hand or the short end of the stick or something like that, I'd first look myself in the mirror and ask myself, am I doing everything in my power to make sure the team has success? And I think that's a very important quality, because you don't want to if the guy who starts pointing fingers is not, that's cancerous. But I think sometimes I looked myself in the mirror too hard, and I put too much blame on myself. So I was a little too harsh on myself. So that's one thing I think I would change. I think another thing I would want to do is, and I'm really passionate about this now, is I understand what it means to wear Utah across your chest and to be a Ute, and how special that program is, and how much legacy and tradition and history there is, and how amazing it is to be a part of it and to etch your name in that history. I wish I would have spread that around to some of my teammates and help them know that, like, listen, this is not just an ordinary school. Like, Utah has a very rich history that's unique. And I would try to help them buy into the name on the chest, just like I did, where they realize, like, okay, yeah, this is a spot where I want to be, and I'm lucky to be here. And then the other thing is, I get to the NCAA tournament, and a lot of that is out of our control, but we didn't talk about it enough. We needed to talk about, like, oh, this is what we need to do to get to the tournament. This is how we're going to get there. This, all that stuff. And because we were good every year to go, we just, didn't go for whatever reason. And So those are a few things I'd change.
No, I love that. And I try to share this with the kids that we coach or my own son around that perfectionism thing, because I had a very similar problem. And it's hard though. Like, it's hard to hear it from somebody older than you, and you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But I wish I had that perspective. And when you're in it, when you're in that moment of, man, I suck, or I can't make anything, or whatever, it's hard to get out of it sometimes.
Get out of it, yeah.
Take me through now. College is done, and you've had dreams, I'm sure, as a kid your whole life to play professionally, and you get that chance. So what does that look like going from, and you listed it off before, but you can list it for everybody else, of the Mexico, Estonia, Germany, I think you said Spain, like all of these different places.
So when my college, I always kind of had a dream growing up. I mean, everyone wants to play in the NBA when you grow up, but it's not realistic, and not everyone can. And so I kind of shifted my goal towards, like, I want to play basketball for as long as I can. And when I finished my senior year, I was really confident. I finished on a high note, and I really felt like, man, my best basketball is still ahead of me. And so I wanted to continue to play. And so international, there's plenty of opportunity to play internationally. There's leagues all over the world. So you kind of go through the process. You hire an agent. They kind of put you in contact with teams internationally, whether that be in Europe or wherever. And so my first contract after college was actually for a team in Mexico. It was actually in Tijuana, the Tijuana Zonkeys, which is a very interesting name. And Mexico has actually grown. It's actually a very reputable basketball league now. It kind of was random when I got it then. Henry Bibby was the coach, who was kind of a legendary guy. Henry Bibby, obviously Mike Bibby's dad. He'd coached in the NBA, played in the NBA. He played for John Wooden at UCLA. He played for the New Orleans Jazz with Pistol Pete Maravich, who was my favorite player. Played with Bill Walton and all those guys. Played with Dr. J. And so I was able to go and play for him. And that was so cool, like, to be in a gym and have him, he would be coaching and stop. And all of a sudden, like, this is how we would do it at UCLA. And I'm like, this is basketball, like, heaven right here. I mean, John Wooden, and, or this is what Dr. J would do, like, it was so cool. The problem of that is it lasted about a month, because then COVID hit. Oh, wow. Yeah. And so that ended our experience. So I always think if I was able to finish that year, I think my professional career would have been off to a better start, because that was a special team. We were really good, and I think it could have led to some greater things. But COVID hit, I came home and was home for almost a year, and really thought I'm like, man, maybe this just isn't for me. I'm not getting any, like, good opportunities or anything like that. Ended up getting this random offer from a team in Estonia, last place team, middle of COVID. So I go over to Estonia, which is pretty much Russia. Yeah. And it's freezing cold, and games are getting canceled left and right. There's no fans. Everyone's getting COVID. You're getting tested every day. It's just kind of a mess. I was there for like 5 months, played 13 games. And again, I came home from that, and I was like, man, this is not it. Like, I don't know. I was so motivated because I felt like I had so much to prove, because like I said, after I finished college, I'm like, man, my best basketball is still ahead of me, and thought I was done. And so I was ready to transition out of basketball. But I kept working. I still going to the gym every day, kept working, had a good group I was working out with, had a good skills coach I was working with, and just every day just kept going. And I'm just like, I'm just going to keep going until something either comes or it doesn't. And then I got an offer to go play for Germany, a team in Germany, and that saved my career. Was able to play 2 years there, awesome experience, met some lifelong friends from that team, and a great city. And that gave me a reputation. So I was able to continue to play, and that kind of started this next transition.
That's such good perseverance, and like, you have to truly have a love of the game. Again, we were talking beforehand about, like, even going from high school to college, and then if life gets in the way, or you get a wife and kids, like, there are so many things. There are guys that do it, and that's amazing. But to have that perseverance and that strength, and then also the ability to make it at that level, is amazing. When you play overseas, how would that balance be between kind of American players versus international players? Is it pretty mixed, or is it more heavily toward one or the other?
Definitely more international. Most leagues have rules about how many Americans they can have on their team. So when I was in Spain, after Germany went to Spain, each Spanish team can only have 2 Americans. So that means the rest are either other Europeans or Spanish players. So it can be pretty competitive to get over there. Germany is a little bit different. The league I was in, Germany, you could have, I think, as many Americans as you could afford. They typically are more expensive, but you had to have 3 German players on the floor at all times. So the teams over there are mainly international players, and so it makes it a little bit of a challenge to get American players over there.
Are there language barriers?
Luckily, the basketball world is all pretty much English. So Germany, I never had to worry about that. Germany, everyone speaks such good English. Spanish was a little bit different because they can speak English, but Spanish is a little bit more universal. So in Spain, it's a little bit more Spanish based, and there's a little bit of a disconnect because their English isn't as good. So there was sometimes a little bit of a disconnect between me and the coaches because the language wasn't on the same level. But in Germany, none whatsoever.
Were there any rule differences that you had to kind of get used to?
In Europe, there's the classic like onside step, and is a travel in Europe, and so like this. I grew up learning this, like, catch, triple threat position, sweep right, long step, extend your dribble, get to the basket in one dribble. And it's kind of hard to explain like this, but like if you have your left foot pivot foot and you extend with your right foot, and before the ball bounces, your left foot comes up, that's an automatic. It's nothing in America, but in Europe, that's an automatic travel. And so that I only had an issue with that. You can adjust pretty quickly with that. I only had an issue with that in Estonia. And I was getting called for travels. I'm like, what? I'm like, this is not a travel. I like kept saying to the rest, I'm like, I do not travel, but over there it is. And Spain, there was a little bit of a interesting dynamic with the refereeing there. The officiating is they are weirdly, that league I was in was big on like you have to like earn calls. You almost have to have you have to earn the respect of the refs to get calls. And so I have never, and I've talked, it's funny because I've had conversations with actually high school refs who used to ref me at East. I never was a flopper. I never baited fouls. I never sold it to the ref. And so I wouldn't get a lot of calls because I would fight through the contact. That was my reaction, is like, if I'm getting fouled, I'm going to go through it and I'm going to act as if I didn't even get hit.
Yeah.
And so I remember a ref telling me once, he's like, you were kind of hard to officiate it because I knew you were getting hit, but you weren't fazed by it. So I didn't know whether to call it or not. And I'm like, well, if I get hit, it's a foul, you know what I mean? But in Spain, I remember you have to like sell it. So I had to get good at kind of like flopping, and, guys would hold you because if you don't flop, they're not going to give it to you. So guys would, hold your jersey and things like that, or they play with their hands. And so that was a tough adjustment over there.
Flopping, it seems like, has gotten more and more prevalent.
I know. And when we grew up, that was like, no, like that was, you don't flop. Like that's not how you play. But
now they have a call for it now. And
it is part of it though. It's the Spanish players I noticed, they were really good at the game within the game. I'm going to get calls, and they were really good at that. I was not good at that. And it's because I was like, oh, no, I'm just going to play basketball and just try to win at the game itself. But that was something I had to learn. I had to be a little bit more of an actor.
You don't have to. Would you be willing to share, like, when we hear they're professional basketball players in Europe, what does that money situation look like, just kind of in broad terms? Like, I know in the NBA we have these just monster contracts that are insane. What does it look like in Europe?
So it's the money in the NBA is not like it is in Europe. Obviously, the highest leagues in Europe, we're talking like the Euro League, which is the highest league, or like First Division Spain, First Division France, First Division Germany, some of these leagues, First Division Turkey, Greece. A lot of guys, they'll make anywhere from like low 6 figures to high 6 figures, a little bit in the millions. So they're making like some pretty good money. But everyone else, there's the best thing about overseas, I would say, is they take care of everything for the most part. Housing, car, insurance, a lot of your food, and then you get everything, and then your salary you pretty much just pocket. But most guys that play over there, they're only making like 40 to 60K, I would say. So it's a lot of guys who will grind over there and play a long time, won't make a ton of money, but it's good money because all of your expenses are paid for. Yeah. And so that's a great part of the life, is like you can go over there and you just live in Europe and you travel and you have fun and you play basketball and kind of all of your basic needs are met. But in order to make some serious money, you have to really put in the time and kind of work your way up the European ladder. And I was on my way up that ladder and kind of made an adjustment in my career. Quick side note on that, it'll be interesting to see high-level college guys who don't make the NBA. It'll be interesting to see if they even go over there. Because high-level college guys are now making 6 figures. Yeah. And they will not make that their first year in Europe. Not even close. And so it'll be interesting to see if they go over there. So when I first went over there, it was nothing to do with the money. I went over there because I'm like, I have something to prove. Yeah. And that was what drove me. So it'll be interesting to see what the new age of college guys do. Well,
the NIL is changing the whole dynamic of everything going on there. And I don't know, like you think of kind of the quote about the coach had said about you with the transfer portal and then with NIL, like how many people will be like Parker, just being willing to
Yeah, the old-fashioned college player that just sticks with it for 3-4 years, and yeah, I don't know. But I think people, hopefully, they understand that like those are the best college teams. The best college teams are guys who have been there for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. What was it like getting the chance to play in the G League? Take me through that story.
Unbelievable experience, and another dream come true. And so where that comes from is, so I played in Spain, and I actually had my best year. I won Player of the Week a few times. I was an all-star in the league, one of the leading scorers. I had my best stretch of basketball. I had like a 2-month stretch where I was averaging like 27 points a game. It was best I'd ever played. And I was playing against some really high-level teams, and I started to get some offers and some interest from some high-level teams that I had been like, that's why I was over there. Like, I was waiting to get, this is what I've been playing for this opportunity, and now I'm getting them. And something hit me. I was just like, is this what I really want? Do I really want to work my way up this European ladder? You know, I'm a single guy. And so like every time I was over there, I was like putting the rest of my life on hold. And I kind of was asking myself, like, I want to continue to play, but I don't know if this like European ladder trajectory that I was on, I don't know if that's what I want from the game. And I'm like, man, the G League would be awesome, but it seems so hard to get in. It seems so competitive. I came home from Spain and I called one of my contacts, Phil Colin, actually, who's a former player at Utah. He was a coach when I was there at Utah. Now he works for the Spurs. I called him and I'm like, hey, man, like, what are the chances? Like, what is it like to get in the G League or anything like that? And where I am in my life and my career, I'd like to stay in the States. He put me in contact with the GM of the Austin Spurs at the time and went from there and got an opportunity to play. And it was such an awesome experience. Like, it was something, again, I never thought I would get the chance. Playing and living in Austin was so cool. The Spurs organization was, I mean, there's a reason why they're the Spurs. And yeah, it was like another dream come true. So I sacrificed a lot in Europe because I would have made more money in Europe and I would have had a better playing role in Europe. But the experience to play in the G League was really, really cool.
That's awesome. That's so cool. The Spurs have been I've loved the Spurs for a long time, and that's a story for another time. But that's such a cool organization. What do you have any like game day traditions?
You know, not really. I was very superstitious when I was in high school and college. I did the same thing. I listened to like the same songs.
Yeah, what's on the playlist?
Oh my gosh. So my music taste, I'm old school. So okay. I have the same music taste of like a 60-year-old man, of like my dad, honestly. Yeah. So I love anything from the 70s and 80s, mainly like 80s, like classic rock. I like love that type of music. But there's times, especially when I was in college, I was so harsh on myself, and I would sometimes kind of psych myself out a little bit. I'd have to calm down a little bit. So there was before a game, I'd be listening to like Jack Johnson or James Taylor or like, you know, Jim Croce, you know, these singer-songwriters, you know, old singer-songwriters to like keep me kind of calmed down a little bit rather than like this hype music. But not really many routines. The one thing I loved about the G League is you'd have a like workout allotment. So everyone would have their own time of like 20 minutes on the court with coaches. And so you'd get to the gym at the same time. You go on the court, you do your 20 minutes. You do like your 20 minutes with the coaches on the court doing basketball stuff, warming up, getting shots. And then you do like 20 minutes with like the trainers and the strength coach where you're doing some agility stuff, maybe doing a little bit of weight training. And then you have your team warm up. So I did really like that. It was very systematic, very routine oriented. So I was able to get a pretty good routine in the G League, where overseas you're just all on your own. Yeah. They're just like, just show up 40 minutes before the game and get ready to play. Yeah. So you kind of have to create your own.
When you go to the gym, and this may have evolved over the years, do you have a routine, like a set, like I want to get through these shots in this amount of time?
Overseas, I did. College, you have everything's like organized for you. The G League, or everything's organized for you. High school, they just put up 20 minutes on the clock. You do some layups and you just go, you know. Overseas, I did. Overseas, I wanted to get to the gym. Team warm-up would start about like 40 minutes on the clock. So I wanted to get to the gym about an hour and a half before game time and get on the floor. And again, like I said, I'm a big believer inside out. So I'd start, you know, inside form shooting and then kind of do some ball handling into some shots. Or I would do like a ball handling move, like, you know, a couple like through the legs into like a mid-range shot. And so I just had like a little shooting workout where I'd start at form shooting, ball handling, mid-range shots, then catch and shoot threes, some shots off the move. Nothing set in stone, but just make sure I would probably get about 100 shots before the game, and before the team warm up. But I was nothing crazy. I just needed to see the ball go through the net a few times to make sure I was feeling good.
With the Spurs, you were number 6. Besides that, I think you were number 5 for most of your career. Why number 5?
I was number 5, so it started at East High. I was number 5 because I couldn't be number 7. 7, I wanted to be Pete Maravich was my favorite player, so he was number 7 for the Jazz.
Why Pete Maravich? How did that come about?
I don't know how exactly it came about. Big Jazz fan, grew up huge on the Jazz, and so he just kind of, he died before I was even born, and played obviously long before I was born. But I just kind of gravitated to him as I would see old Jazz highlights of him, old LSU highlights. I mean, I scored 45 points a game in college without a 3-point line, and as a kid, I had his like DVDs of his like skills video. He had like a skills videos that I had. There's a movie about him as a kid. There's, had his jersey and his poster, and just gravitated towards him. And so he was number 7. So all growing up, like AAU, I was 7. And then high school and college, they had that rule, which they've now changed, but you couldn't be anything 6'7", 8 or 9 or higher than 55. Mm-hmm. And so 5 was like my secondary choice. And I was lucky to have that from high school all the way up through college. But every year in pro, I always ask for 7 first. Mm-hmm. 7 first, then 5, then 3, and then I go from there. Yeah. But I really like 6. That may be the new one.
In college, is there kind of like a negotiation with guys that want the same number?
I didn't have to do that, thank goodness. So I got in as a freshman. Jared Dubois, who was a number 5 before me, graduated. So 5 was available, and I was able to get it, and it was available when I got home from my mission too. So I was lucky. I didn't have to negotiate. Nobody was like, no coaches had to come in and be like, hey, we got a big recruit and he wants number 5. Like, luckily I had it, so I was lucky to be the same number the whole time.
I had a question here of what's the most influential, which of these is the more influential basketball movie, Coach Carter, the original Space Jam, or The Pistol, The Birth of a Legend?
Ooh. I would say, for me, most influential? I do love the Pistol movie, Birth of a Legend. I did like Coach Carter. I remember seeing Space Jam as like a kid growing up, but I think for me, since Pete Maravich, it's got to be Pistol. In that movie, he gets. I'm pretty sure he gets challenged if he can spin the ball on his finger for like an hour or the whole hour. So that made me want to really be good at spinning the ball on my finger. So I'll have to go with the Pistol one. Perfect. All good movies though.
Do you have a favorite basketball shoe?
Shoe? I was an Adidas guy growing up. I loved all the Adidas shoes, funny enough, growing up. I think right now the Sabrina is the best shoe. Yeah. Which is funny because it's a girl's shoe, but I think the Sabrina is the best shoe. I had some Giannis's that I really liked. We haven't talked about this, but in Powder League, when I scored 85 points in a game, I did it in these like green and white Giannis shoes that I held on to forever because I'm like, I don't want to get rid of these because I had a great moment in these shoes. So I still think I have them, even though they're just like destroyed. But right now, the Sabrinas are my favorite shoe.
Well, in that 85-point game, 83 of them came after the first quarter. Yeah. Right? So take us through that.
Yeah. So the Powder League, obviously one of the top pro I'm here in the state, and we're playing at Judge Memorial a few years ago, and first quarter, just 2 points, just a normal game. And I'm just out there, you're out there just having fun, and it's summer, you just want to get good reps, you want to win and compete and, just enjoy summer basketball. And then the second quarter started, and I just started getting some open shots and just was not missing. And then my teammates just like fed into it. Yeah. And so one thing I'm grateful for them is like after the third quarter, I think I had like 60, and I was like, I'm done. I'm okay. I'm going to sit out. We're up by a lot. I'm done. And they're like, no, like you have to continue to go. And so when I got to 85, that was pretty cool. And one of those games, it was just like throwing a rock into an ocean. I don't know. You just weren't going to miss. But I kicked myself after. I'm like, dang, if I would have just had a normal first quarter, I could have scored 100.
Is that one of those things where after the fact, you're kind of like, did that really happen? Did this just happen?
Yeah, it was crazy. And
do you know the breakdown of like the number of threes versus twos versus free throws?
I think I made 18 threes. It was like 18 for 27 from 3, which was like insane. And then I'm not sure the rest. I didn't shoot a lot of free throws. And but it was just one of those, just like where my whole team was just, everything was, all right, let Parker score. Yeah. So it was give me the ball, screen for me. And then I don't know. And I've always thought, like, I kind of go back to the UCLA shot, right? Like when I was running up the floor, I was so confident and calm and composed. And I'm like, how can I duplicate that all the time? And there's been moments, like there was times in Spain where I felt like that, and I had a lot of success. The 85-point game, where you're just shooting and there's nothing in your mind, just utmost confidence, no care about the result, and you're so free. And to me, I'm like, I want to be able to grasp that and have that all the time. And to me, that's what I think is most impressive about some high level players is they have that mentality. Whether they're 1 for 10 or 10 for 10, they have that kind of confidence, and easier said than done to be able to grasp that all the time.
Well, there's got to be a point where the other team is like, okay, like make anybody but him score, and then you still go. So
I don't know. I think that's the one thing I think everyone was sad. I remember people commenting online. It's like, why are they not double teaming him? They just stayed one-on-one, and I don't know. I think everyone just wanted to be a part of the show, maybe a little bit. But
well, it's such a testament, as you said, to your team. If there's been teams that I've played on where it's almost like if I hit a shot, I felt like they were mad that I had some success. And so it's like, now Erik's not going to see the ball for the next 5 minutes because we don't want 2 shots going in. And but then you've also been on other teams where you're like, hey, just feed it. And I don't care if you score 100 and I score 0, or if I feel like that's the more fun way to play rather than like fighting your own team while you're also going against another
Of course. And winning is the priority. And this is a big thing that we talk about in Europe, because there can be, in professional basketball, there can be a little bit of a cancerous culture of like, this is what I was told when I first went over to Europe. It's better for you to score 20 and lose than score 10 and win. And I'm like, that is not me.
Yeah.
And that kind of message needs to stop, because that's not true. Coaches from high-level teams, they want guys who win.
Yeah.
And if you're on a winning team, even if you don't average as much as you would if you were on a worse team, it's like a rising tide raises all ships. Like, coaches want winners, coaches who want guys who are willing to do what it takes to win first. And if you do that, if you prioritize unselfish desires first, it always comes back to benefit you individually. And so, when you're on those teams, that's where everyone eats.
Yeah.
Everyone has success.
Well, that's got to be hard to find as you're going through the Europe. You talked about climbing that Europe ladder, the G League. We're all trying to get to the NBA, Powder League, same thing. You're trying to like show out against a bunch of different people. I think that those environments kind of lend themselves to go get your own versus play as a team.
Yeah.
So that's got to be hard to kind of navigate if you don't have the right guys around you.
Yeah, it's true.
What does it take to win? So all these levels that you've played at, with incredible success, with good seasons, with tough seasons, in your mind, what does it take to win?
A lot. It's hard to win. It's hard to win. I would say a couple things that come to mind right away is, one is players, coaches buying into something bigger than themselves. So you buy into the program, you buy into the team, and you prioritize the benefit of the team over the individual. So that's huge. And so what that leads to is everyone having like a good attitude. Attitude and energy is so contagious in a team. This is a big thing they talk about in baseball right now, especially in the baseball playoffs. It takes one bad guy to ruin a whole clubhouse. And the same thing is true in basketball. And so in college, we talked a lot about being an energy giver or an energy vampire. If you walk into a practice and you have negative energy, you're sucking the energy from other players. But if you come in and you're enthusiastic and you're positive, you're giving energy to everyone else around you. That's a huge thing. You enhance the people around you with your attitude, with your energy. Winning obviously being the priority. And then I would say a big thing too is having good like practice habits. I'm a big believer, like you have to learn, competing is a skill. You got to like learn how to compete. And so I've loved the teams I've been on where like every drill there's a winner and there's a loser, and it pays to be a winner. Like it means something to win. So what I always say to high schools is that freshman game matters. You need to win. So you're telling the freshmen, like, we are here to win this game and we're going to do what it takes to win. Obviously you want to develop the kids and, help them become better players and better people. But like, you want to create an atmosphere of winning where I think a lot of schools, we just care about varsity. We want to win at varsity. We want to develop freshman, sophomore, JV. You got to teach, you got to have a habit of winning. So when those freshmen are now juniors, they've learned how to win. If we're talking about high school kids, I think that's a big thing that I see in programs is like, I don't care if it's summer, I don't care if it's spring, I don't care if it's a JV game in January. you got to win.
No, I think it's almost like a skill
Yeah.
in certain ways, right? There's habits of winning and losing. And there's a quote that I saw recently where you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your training. And I think kind of what you said there of getting in the habits of practice. If you're not doing it beforehand, there's not some magic wand that says, okay, you're going to go do something you've never done before extraordinarily well. Like that just isn't reality. So I have a few more lighter things. You've been super generous. If you're all right to spend a couple more minutes.
Man. This has been great. We could go on for hours.
I have a bag of basketballs here. We had an episode on basketballs. And so I want to hand you a basketball. You've played with a bunch of different styles and brands and types of basketballs throughout your life. I only have 6. It's also a disadvantage because some of them are like brand new and they haven't been played with, and others have been worn out, and you'll feel it. So I want you to see if you can guess which basketball is handed to you.
Okay. So I'm going to close my eyes here. Yeah. All right. I'm excited for this because I've got a great point about college basketball here, about basketball.
I definitely have a preference, but they don't use the one I like anymore. All right. You ready?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking this is a Spalding of some kind.
You can look whenever you're
okay,
ready.
Let's see. Oh, a Nike. That was my second choice. Nike Elite Ball. Okay.
Did you play much with it? Because in college, I think the conferences can choose, and so if you're playing other conferences, you get a.
So it's funny you ask. I remember one of my first interviews after I played college basketball. They said, "What was one thing you would change about college basketball format?" And the first thing I said is, I would have everyone play with the same basketball. So we played with the old, at Utah, we were Under Armour school, but we played with the old NCAA like Wilson Solution Ball, which I think is the greatest basketball ever. They don't even use it anymore.
So I want you to blind rank these. So there's 6. So where would you put this on 1 through 6?
1 through 6. This Nike ball is actually better than the ones we played with in college. Because like you play a Nike school and you play with it. And so I put this one at 4.
4?
4, okay.
All right. I agree with you on having the same ball.
Yeah, same ball.
I just think...
Because they all felt different. And like, man, Arizona State played with like an Adidas ball when I was there. It was awful.
Well, they had some statistics on this a few years ago because I think it was Oklahoma was playing with a different ball than everybody else, and the shooting for everybody when you went and played at Oklahoma went down.
Yeah.
All right, you ready for number 2?
Yep, number 2.
This one's actually been used a little bit more, so it's a...
Okay, I'm thinking this one is like the Wilson Evo, the current high school ball.
Open your eyes. Look at that.
All right, yeah, there you go.
Nailed it.
I think this is a great ball.
Yeah.
Actually.
This replaced what you had mentioned.
Yes, and I'm actually, it's a great ball. I think it feels similar to the one that I played with. The color was hard to get used to, but this is a lot of European leagues are now moving to this. So my league in Germany, we played with this ball. I don't know what else you have, but I'm going to put this at 1 because
right.
I'm not sure what else you have, but I really do. I do like this ball.
This one, you have to break that one in. I think that one. So going to that solution ball you talked about, that one right out of the box for me, I loved. And then when it was broken in, I also liked.
Yeah.
This one right out of the box takes me a minute, but once it's broken in, I like that one.
I agree.
Number 3.
Oh, man. This one's rough. Oh, I'm guessing, is this a Spalding? Let's see if this one's a Spalding. Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, this was
my high school ball.
Yes. So I love, we even had the older, when I was here at East, we had the older version of the TF1000, and I made us play with those because I loved those. So this one I don't like as...
It's like hasn't been used.
Hasn't been used.
So if you break that in, it'll be a little bit.
Yeah, so this is a classic TF1000, so I actually would love this ball. But yeah, I love like all the videos. We probably played with a ball from like 2005 when I was in high school, but I love the older TF1000. So when this is broken in, I'm going to put this at number 2.
All right. That Spalding changed the way they made those. So that is an older version, but they changed it to where it was almost like a rubbery feel.
Yeah.
Totally blew up Spalding's basketball.
Terrible. I remember like there was the 2. There was the ZK Pro and the Legacy. And I remember before my junior year, before the state tournament, we were playing with that ball. And I'm like, I hate this ball. This is terrible. And I was shooting awful during practice. So Coach Lowe, our coach here, he gave me the ball that we were going to play with in the game. And he's like, take it home and like sleep with it. And make sure you're ready for it.
All right. We're at number 4.
Yeah, number 4. And I'm running out of ideas here.
I think you've caused 1, 2, and 4 the numbers that you've done so far.
Yeah. So I'm guessing is this I'm going to take a wild guess here. Is it a Baden? A Baden by chance? I would be
similar.
shocked
You
if
can
you had
open
a ball.
it.
Okay, just the normal evolution. Okay, this did feel like the old ball. This is the classic. This is the ball that every I think every kid has this ball.
Yeah.
Like this is the classic, like any pickup you go to, like people will have this ball. I actually don't mind this ball. I like it. So I think 3. I think 3 is actually really good for this one.
I despise that ball. So we can disagree on it. We actually weighed these. We weighed all of the basketballs, and that one's 25 grams heavier.
Okay.
Than the Evo NXT. And so when I played with it, I would feel like this feels a little heavier. So you shoot it, and I'm like, oh, this feels really good. And then you'd almost airball it. Like, what happened?
So I actually like a heavier ball than a lighter ball. And sometimes the Nike for me can get too light.
Okay. Yeah.
So I like the heavier ball. So that one's number 3. So this one's the last one.
So we got 2 more.
Oh,
so you've got number 6 left, and
I think number 5 and number 6 left.
Number 5 and 6. I think you're going to be heartbroken.
Uh-oh.
This one's been used.
This one has been used. I'm running out of brands here. Are they still?
We have a lot. I'll give you a hint. There's a lot of Wilson.
Okay. So I'm guessing this is some kind of Wilson. I'm not sure exactly. Oh, man, this is the ball.
This is the one.
Dang, this is the ball.
This is my favorite ball of all time.
This is mine too right here. I don't know why I was thinking it was a little bit thicker. Dang, well, I have to put it at 5. I would put it at, if I could redo it, I'd put it at 1. But yeah, this is the ball right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one coming is not been broken in very well. But
okay.
This is the last one.
Okay, is this the NBA ball?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I have a love and hate relationship with the NBA ball because and the Spalding one I think is the same, the one it used to be. When you get used to it and you get some sweat on it and your hands get grippy, it's a great ball. Like my handle never feels tighter, shot feels great, everything like that. But when you put it, like right now, this feels awful. Like it feels terrible. Like
really
when everyone feels an NBA ball, they're like, this is the ball that the greatest league in the world plays with. But so I'm okay putting this at 6 because I do have a love-hate relationship with it. I'd probably put the Nike. If I were to do it again,
let's redo it.
If I were to redo them, this was a great idea. I love this. If I were to redo them, I'd put the Solution at number 1. I'd put the Evo at 2. I'd put the broken in TF1000 at 3. I'd put the NBA ball at 4, the Evolution at 5, and the Nike at 6. Nice. That would be my correct term. But that was great. That was a good idea. I enjoyed that.
It's tough because I have the NBA ball, but nobody wants to play with it in like the pickup that I do and stuff. And so it's like, okay, I can go shoot with it, but I don't get sweaty, and I don't so there's no way for me to really break this in unless you have ideas of how to properly break in an NBA ball.
Oh man, I play with it. So one thing I do with this, maybe you can get some high school kids to use it, because I believe this. I think when I train with the NBA ball and I shoot with it, it makes the other balls feel way better. Like to me, it makes it like, so if I were to shoot, like I train with this one all summer and then I'd go to Germany and play with the Evo, and it made the Evo feel like way better for me. And so when I'll work out with some college guys, some high school guys, and sometimes we'll just shoot with the NBA ball. Yeah. Because I'm like, it'll make the other ball feel better.
Well, it's kind of slippery. And so I think for ball handling, it kind of helps keep things pretty tight. And then when I shoot it, I feel like the feedback is good. I feel like, okay, I know where it's going pretty well. Where with some of these with different weights or different feels, like when I let go, I'm not entirely confident.
Yeah, I agree. And I think another big thing with the NBA ball is a good thing to do is do finishing drills with it, because without sweat, it'll slide off the backboard.
Yeah.
So it's a good, if you can finish with that, you can finish with the other ones.
That's awesome. Thanks for taking the time to
love that.
jump into that. What are you like outside of basketball? So what you talked about baseball a little bit, but like maybe even outside of sports, what are you passionate about outside of what's been your life for so long? Yeah,
I mean, sports are a huge part of my life. I literally just got back. Me and my brother, it was our birthdays this week. My brother, we're 2 days apart. And so we just did a family birthday trip to Lambeau Field, saw a Packers game. And so I love sports trips of going to like different stadiums, whether that be baseball, football, basketball, and going to see games. So I love that. I love my music for sure. Like, so I'm a big concert guy. So that's something my dad and my brothers have always done. And so I've seen all the old classic. I've seen Elton John and Billy Joel and Rolling Stones and anyone from old age. And I got to keep going to these concerts because all the people I like are going to die soon. So I got to get to them. So I love going to concerts. I have a knack for, I'm pretty good at like movie quotes, TV quotes, things like that. So me and some friends and some of my family members, I know The Office. It's sickly how well.
Someone did bring that up in Instagram to ask about it.
Okay, because like The Office and like Seinfeld, Parks and Rec, like there's a few shows that I just kind of know everything about. And So I do music. I'm definitely well versed in like my music and TV and movies choice of things.
There was an office or a quiz here of in his perfect crime, Dwight mentions a fictional girl. What is her name?
Oh my gosh, that's
Tiffany or Jessica?
Oh, Tiffany.
Okay, so if I give you like options, you definitely.
I definitely get them. Yeah, Tiffany.
There's like a whole office quiz. You don't have to go through all of it, but that was something that came up.
Tiffany's an easy one. That's a classic one.
Heath Vincent asks,
good friend.
Your favorite Pokemon?
Great question. Heath I grew up playing against, Heath went to Park City. I grew up playing against him in sports, and then we were mission companions. Okay. So he's a great guy. So my favorite Pokemon is Charmander, and the reason why is because that's actually like, I kind of have a nickname based off of it. So when I was a freshman on the basketball team here at East, the senior players wanted to give me like a nickname. And so they were kind of trying to figure something out with Dick Van Dyke, who's a famous actor, of course, and Van Dyke's my last name. So Dick, for whatever reason, is short for the name Richard. And so this was on a weekend, and I told one of my teammates, he's like, I'm going to call you Richard now. And I made a mistake, and I said, I guarantee Monday morning you will not remember to call me Richard. And I told him that, and he doubled down. And so first practice Monday morning, I get back, everyone's calling me Richard the whole day. And then that got shortened to Chard.
Okay.
And so then Chard kind of was like Chard from Dick Van Dyke, and then someone thought I looked like the Pokemon Charmander, and so that just doubled down. So Chard, like I had a dinner with some high school friends last night for my birthday, and that's what I'm Chard to them. So awesome. Chard for Charmander and Dick Van Dyke.
Is today your birthday?
Yesterday, or 2 days ago was my birthday.
2 days ago. Well,
2 days ago. Thank you.
How have you found a way to stay grounded when you, I think for a lot of your life, have been defined as a basketball player in a lot of circles? Obviously, you're in different social circles, but in a lot of them, you're a basketball player. Yeah, and I think, it's funny. A lot of people in the basketball world in Utah, that's all they know about me is that I'm a basketball player. So I think they think that's all I do, and that's like all I'm about. And it is obviously a huge part of my identity. And I'm not big in the social media scene, and so like all of my social media content is just me playing basketball. Even though, I do more, and I have more interest in that. I think going back to my background, of having such great coaches, such great role models, such great family, such great parents. I never lost sight of what's most important. Any success on the floor does not even touch it doesn't matter if you're not being a great person off the floor. And so, my faith is very important to me. For me, one of my biggest goals growing up was I wanted to play college basketball, and I wanted to serve a mission. And so I kind of stayed on that path in order to do that. And I've tried to stay on that path post my mission. And just realizing, like, at the end of the day, the relationships you create through these experiences and the people that are in your life is what's most important. And so in order to have those relationships and have those people in your life, you got to be, you got to live the right way. You got to treat people the right way. So I hope people view me as someone who's trying to be a good guy on and off the floor, even though at times on the floor I can be, a fierce competitor. But I just think never losing sight of what's most important. Yeah. What does the future look like?
What does the future look like?
What do you hope it looks like?
Yeah, what I hope it looks like. So, I'm kind of in a transition phase in terms of I'm hoping to go back into the G League. And so I've got a couple options there.
The head coach here is asking if you ever would want to come coach at your
alma mater. Yeah, I definitely would. During COVID, when I was in and out of my career overseas, I was actually the JV coach here for a few months, which I loved. And I love this program, and Coach Cummings, I think, is doing a great job, and he's building something special here. I think East has an opportunity to get some momentum. I have family members on the team, and so definitely in the future, I think. But when I've noticed, like in the summer as I've done coaching and I've done training, and I do like to do that on the side, I'm just not done being the player yet. And I still think I've got some good basketball in front of me. Ideally, I would like to stay in the States and play in the G League again. But overseas is always an option. So we'll see. But as for now, I still think I've got a year or two of really good basketball left in me.
When it's off season and things are going like this, how do you play in runs that are to the level that you want to play at?
It's hard. I think one good thing about Utah is a lot of guys, NBA guys, former college guys, they love living here. And so even guys who are not from here, they make sure they come back to Utah and are here for the summers. And all of the best like basketball players in Utah pretty much live within about an hour radius, right? I mean, pretty much from Provo to like Bountiful area, everyone lives in right there. So it can be easy to get together with guys like that. This summer, I had an opportunity with Alex Jensen at Utah. I was able to go up and meet him, and he invited me and some other guys to go play with the current Utes. So that was, that's pretty high-level basketball. You get to go play against the current college guys. I've got a good group of pickup guys that I have around here in this area, whether it's former college guys, ex-pro guys. I set that up a couple times a week, and you just try to make it as best as you can. You're not gonna simulate a G League type level run, but as long as you're staying in shape and you're keeping your skills sharp, there's good basketball players in Utah that are here for the summers especially, and so that's why like the Powder League is important too, because you get a taste of like high level basketball in the off season.
I was going to ask, are there any perks for being a University of Utah alum basketball player? Do you get to go up there and see games whenever you want? Do you get to get out on the court whenever you want? Do you work out there when you want?
I think I could. I mean, they're welcome. I mean, I think that's a big part of being a good college program is you want to have a good relationship with the alumni. Mm-hmm. So I always feel welcome to go in there. It's not the staff I played for, but I'm welcome to go up there and work out with the guys. Or if I really wanted to, utilize the weight room and the resources, I probably could. And there's been a couple years in the past where like I've been at a game and the coaches invite me to come in the locker room after the game and speak to the team and stuff like that, which is pretty special. But you want to be one of the alumni guys that is, you want to be treated well, but you also don't want to ask too much. The University of Utah has done a lot for me, and they did a lot for me when I was there, and so I'm very gracious, and they are very welcoming when I go back.
This is the last question for you. We've been talking a long time. I could go on for hours.
I love it.
You have a real life, so
yeah, we'll
let you
have
get
a
back
part
to
two.
it. You've through all of this. I mean, this career that you've had of the successes, the disappointments, the injuries, the conditioning, all of this, was it worth it?
Yes. Easy, yes. And I hope everyone can answer that question like positively and affirmatively, yes. Because anytime you have success, anytime you have something go your way, like you get an opportunity that you weren't expecting or something like that, it makes all of the hard things, all the battles worth it. So for me, like I hit that UCLA shot. That feeling makes all of the grind before it worth it for that moment. Getting an opportunity to play in the G League. It makes living in like an abandoned hotel in dark Estonia for 5 months worth it.
Yeah.
Like in the time it was rough and it was hard. And I look back on it and I'm like, I don't know how I did it. But the grind and the work you put in, when you reap the benefits of it, yeah, it always is worth it. And I would tell young kids now, like the work that you're putting in, it will not go unnoticed, and it's not for naught. Mm-hmm. Like no effort is wasted. It's if you're going about things the right way and you're putting in your work, opportunities and doors will come. Mm-hmm. Doors will open, opportunities will come one way or another. And I've only seen that throughout my career, and I'm grateful. I look back and I'm so grateful for my journey. I'm grateful that my journey wasn't easy. Mm-hmm. That I had to persevere some things because it's made me a way better person, and it's made to where I am now. Like I love my career. Yeah. For a while I didn't, and I love my journey. It's mine. I tell pros, I say, embrace your journey. Mm-hmm. It's easy to get in the comparison game and be like, hey, that guy's getting this opportunity. I'm better than him. Why don't I get it? Mm-hmm. And point fingers and things like that. It's easy to do that. But just embrace your journey and have pride in like your journey. It's mine. This is my career, and I did this. And I think that's a way healthier and better way to live, and it will lead to some success.
I think there's so much wisdom in what you've shared in this time. I hope that anybody who takes the time to watch this, learns something, whether they're a kid, whether they're a parent, whether they're a coach or a player that's trying to play further. I think this is so important. And going back to the very first time I saw you, of putting in that work all alone in a gym at game speed intensity. And then I think back of like that opportunity that you will remember for the rest of your life, that UCLA game. That doesn't happen without the stuff that came before. Yeah. And so a lot of people that don't want to get in and put in the work, well, like if you really want to get to these moments that people will be talking about for the rest of your life, not just you, but the rest of the world, like there's stuff that happens beforehand to make it possible. So thank you for taking this time and letting me talk to you for a while.
Yeah, it was awesome. So fun. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, it's a privilege. Always down to talk hoops and ball. And yeah, you do a great job. It's great content.
Thank you. Good luck in your future too. It's
Thank
been
you.
fun.
Thank you.